The grass swing is already coming to an end in ATP Fantasy, and it all culminates at SW19 as we gear up for the second Grand Slam in the game at Wimbledon. Many of the world's top players are returning to action and maybe playing their first match on grass this season, so there's a lot of question marks there, especially with Jannik Sinner's return. Do we give him a triple bounce chip this week? This is Deadline Decisions for Tournament Week 10. In this video I'll be going through the entire Wimbledon draw in detail, looking at all the most popular players' routes to the final, as well as some dark horses as well. I'll also be covering the all-important price changes on Monday, and I'll also be covering all of the key information you need to know ahead of the final grass swing tournament. So let's serve it up. Hello and welcome back to another video. This is Josh from Expected Aces, your edge in ATP Fantasy. Before we dive into Wimbledon, I just want to address some confusion around the bonus ball, especially it's been causing chaos in Tournament Week 9 with so many withdrawals. It turns out that I've actually interpreted the rules incorrectly. Since the game came out, I always interpret it to mean that only the players on the top row could become your bonus ball player. Yeah, so if Taylor Fritz, for example, doesn't play, then it goes to Cerundolo, then it'll go to the right to TFO if he doesn't play, but it doesn't go beyond that. Because of the key line I've highlighted in blue here, it says if neither your chosen bonus ball player nor either player to the right plays, no bonus ball is applied. But the line above says that it will apply to the player on the immediate right and so on and so forth. So they kind of contradict. It's very, very poor wording from the ATP. There's been a lot of discussion on Reddit about this in the subreddit, which is r/ATP Fantasy, for those interested in getting involved in the conversation. We're not quite sure whether it's a coding error or whether they do literally mean that anyone could be your bonus ball player. It applies to the first applicable player. One thing I've been thinking about is that it might be coded as like one long line. They're obviously shown to present it this way on a grid like this with 3, 3 and 2. But maybe in their eyes it's one continuous grid, so that it just keeps going to the player to the right until it gets to player 8, and whoever's playing will get the bonus ball. So obviously that's benefited me because it means that Jack Draper is my bonus ball player this week. He's the only player in action. But obviously I hadn't planned for that. I hadn't put him on my top row. I've got lucky because I hadn't planned for him to be a bonus ball player. If you're wondering why I put those three on my top row, obviously they had the highest upside if they were going to play, even though they were all risks. Before the deadline hit, Draper was supposed to play Nakashima in round 1 anyway, which I didn't like as a matchup. He was a bit more of a punt for me, so I never really wanted to have him as the bonus ball player. But I have now been very fortunate, and I have managed to turn a profit despite taking this minus 100 point hit. But to address all confusion, basically the first player in this grid that is actually playing this week is actually going to be your bonus ball player. So here are the projected upcoming player price changes. I've only included the key ones for now. There are a few pages, a few slides on this. I will do a YouTube short and I'll post on Instagram and TikTok and X on Sunday once it's all been finalised. But just to give you a rough idea, this is what should be happening on Monday morning once the Wimbledon 2025 ranking points are removed from the ATP Live rankings. They dictate the player pricing. They'll update on Monday. The official rankings won't actually change until after Wimbledon, but for all that matters to us, these price moves will happen on Monday morning. So if you want to lock in some player prices now, you need to do that before Sunday night. Or you want to wait to buy certain players at a cheaper price, then wait till Monday. So as you can see here, we've got Alex de Minaur is going up in price, and Ben Shelton, who I'm very interested in, is going down. Taylor Fritz, who many of you, if you don't own him already, will probably want him. He's also going down in price on Monday. And then we've got some big risers like Cobolli going up from 15 to 19 credits. So if you want him, go for him before Monday. Same for Medvedev as well. And Djokovic is also getting a big price decrease. So again, you wouldn't bring him in until Monday. Essentially, players on the left, bring them in now if you want them. Players on the right, wait till Monday. And then if you look at some more, we've got Massetti, who's not playing at all. He's getting a price rise because there are player points being removed elsewhere, but he's not relevant for this conversation. Also some price rises for Dardari and Team as well. I think they'll be less popular. But I, for example, own Lerner Team. I am going to sell him, but I'll wait to sell him on Monday. And then I don't think you're massively interested in these three on the right of the screen here, Rublev, Vacherov and Khachanov. Obviously Vacherov is not playing, and I wouldn't fancy Rublev or Khachanov for good runs at SW19. And then finally, Francisco Cerundolo, who many people will be interested in bringing in. He's getting a price rise. So again, if you want him, go early, go by end of day Sunday. Rafael Nadal has not played a match on grass, so I'm very unsure about his chances at Wimbledon. But if you do own him, you obviously want to wait until Monday to sell him when he gets that price rise. And then actually very also going up, but don't think it's really applicable to his situation. Interesting prices decreasing here. Nakashima, who made semi-finals at Queen's last week, he's going down in price. Could be an option. Cam Norrie, quarter-finalist in Wimbledon last year, former semi-finalist. At 5 credits, he's a very, very nice price. And then grass court specialist Adrian Manarino, who disappointed in Mallorca with a first-round exit, but he's going down to 3 credits, so he's very, very cheap now. So apologies, but I will not be on video for this section of the video because I am on the road. When the draw has come out, the rest of it was pre-recorded. But looking at the draw at a glance, it's quarter 4 that's the absolute nightmare here because all the popular picks from the past week and the week before that have all ended up in the same section. So you've got Taylor Fritz playing Jack Draper in round 1, popcorn match but a nightmare. TFO's in this section, Bublik's in this section, Cerundolo's in this section, Lehecka's in this section, Zverev's in this section. You're probably going to have at least 2 or 3 players here. I've got 5 in my team that are in this section. So realistically, only 2 can stay. So we're going to cover that in great detail in this video, but that is the quarter that stands out. I also think the second quarter is also very open, given that it's Aliassime Aliassim's section. I don't think he'll be the one coming through there. Djokovic obviously stands out at the bottom, but it does leave some opportunities for the likes of Cam Norrie and Leonard Tien, which we'll come on to. So here's my recommended team structure for tournament week 10. You'll have 1 player from each quarter, and then ideally you'd have 1 extra player from quarter 2, because that's very open, and then 1 extra player from quarter 4, because you're probably already going to have at least 2 or 3 players from there anyway. You only want 1 from quarter 1 because it's going to be Yannick Sinner and you fancy him to come through. He's going to be a bonus ball pick, and he's going to be triple bounce chip as well probably, so you don't really want to go him to go against anyone else in your team there. And I put quarter 3 as the only other 1 player section because I really like Ben Shelton's route to the final, which we'll come on to shortly. Looking at what this could look like, so you've got Yannick Sinner obviously as placeholder in quarter 1, Djokovic should be your first quarter 2 pick, Shelton quarter 3, choose between Zverev and Fritz, whoever you prefer for the quarter 4, and then quarter 2, your second pick, you can take your pick here. I flagged Norrie and Tien as ones that stand out, but there are others as well. And then for quarter 4, I've also kept in TFO and Cerundolo, as they're very, very popular high-owned players for tournament week 8 and tournament week 9, and they've both won titles on grass this season. But again, this could be Lehecka, this could be Bublik. It's really up to you, so you really want to keep from your existing team. So this table here is the most selected players for tournament week 10, the asterisk being that these are the top players that are actually fit and competing at Wimbledon. I've got rid of players like Alcaraz and Musetti who were in the top 16 but aren't playing at Wimbledon. I've also colour-coded this, so the green is like I think you bring them in no matter what. Yellow, I feel like if you own them, you keep them, but they're not a priority for you to bring in. And orange means that I would advise not bringing them in and also removing them as well. So we'll look at the first 4 in more detail now when it comes to Fonseca, Sinner, Cerundolo and Ruud. These are their routes to the semi-finals. You'll see here with João Fonseca that he's only played 1 grass court match this season. It was in Halle in the first round against Yannick Hanfmann, and it didn't go well at all, a straight set loss. Pulled out of Eastbourne, was practicing on site, pulled out the day of his match with a shoulder injury. How's that going to hold up? We're not sure. Did reach the 3rd round last year, but he's got no tennis under his belt really on grass, except from a fun doubles run in Halle. So I think he's definitely a sell despite being the most popular owned player in the game right now as of Friday. His route to the semi-finals here, as you can see, Ruud would be his first seeded player, and then it's Djokovic potentially in round 4. Yes, he beat him at Roland Garros, but on grass it's an entirely different prospect. So I really think he is in the void. Yannick Sinner's got a very nice draw. The one concern you say might be the quarterfinal against Medvedev, where he has lost him on grass in the past, but if he gets through the heat this next week and gets to that stage of the tournament, then you fancy he will go through all the way to win again. Cerundolo I put in orange because I own him. He's been a very highly owned player, 3rd most popular player in the game, but I'm worried about this draw now. I know he won in Queen's and he had a rest this week. He didn't play in Eastbourne, but he lost to Mickelson on grass in the past. His Wimbledon record is also not very good. He's not got past the 3rd round here. Lehecka in the 3rd round would be his first seed, and he's lost to him on grass. Always struggles against Zverev, and then if he gets beyond that, it would be amazing. But he probably has the worst draw of those in that nightmare 4th quarter, and I'm thinking for that reason that you either decide to make him one of your alternates or you sell them all together. And then when it comes to Casper Ruud, he's definitely a non-starter here for terms of a pick because he's not played a match on grass this season. He has also really struggled at Wimbledon in the past. He's never made it beyond the second round, and he hasn't played. It's Hurkacz in round one, which is very, very, very tough. Hurkacz, former semi-finalist here. Got a winning record against him, but never met on grass. Winning records as well against Medvedev and Paul, but again, Paul has made a Queen's final this year. On grass, you fancy Tommy Paul would win that match. He nearly beat Ruud on clay anyway at Roland Garros. And so, yeah, I think if you still own him and you have an active team, you should be looking to get rid of Ruud definitely this week. If we look at the pass for the players who are popular players from positions 5 through 8, so Arthur Fils is returning to action as far as we know. Hasn't played in a long, long time, not since Rome. And he's got Collignon in the first round, which is a very, very difficult match. Collignon played pretty well in Halle, had tight 2-set losses in tie breaks against Zverev. Looks to be growing confidence on the surface. That's not an easy opener. Then it could be Berrettini or Wawrinka in the second round. Berrettini on grass, tough proposition. They're both only coming back from injury, so it could be a flip of a coin, but it's not the easiest matchup. Then Menchik in the third round. Menchik obviously hasn't had much grass court tennis under his belt either this season after only playing one match in Queens, but there's just too many question marks around his fitness right now. Obviously, the ceiling is there. He's a very exciting pick, and he hasn't reached the fourth round at Wimbledon 2 years ago as well. I just think it's too early to gamble on him, unfortunately. Same goes for Rafael Hadar, because he has not played a match on grass this season. He's still got that abdominal injury that's kept him out of Queens and Eastbourne. We don't know how he's feeling at all. He played very well on the grass, on the junior circuit, but you look at it, it's Shapovalov in the second round, who has gone very, very deep at Wimbledon in the past. I know he's not in the best form right now, but on grass it could be a winnable match for him. He lost to Dadari, but Dadari will face him in the third round. But then he's obviously in that dreaded Sinner section, so it would be Sinner in the fourth round. So do you really want to bring in a player whose ceiling is, facing Yannick Sinner in round 4? If he even gets there, that is. So I think he's an avoid this week. Alexander Zverev, the draw is nice up through to the fourth round. Lehecka, you think he'd get through on grass, but it won't be easy. And then it's the dreaded quarterfinal matchup against Taylor Fritz for him. He lost the semi-final in Halle to him recently. Has lost him on grass on 3 occasions. He's won 2 though on the flip side, but he has now lost many in a row to Fritz if Fritz gets there. So I think it's worrying that you've got Zverev and Fritz with potentially one of them's going to have a quarterfinal ceiling, which is a concern. But I think at his price, if you already have him, I would keep him. If you don't own him, I don't think you look to bring him in necessarily this week, given the section that he is in. The players that are around, and you might want to go for Djokovic instead, or spend the money on Shelton. If you can only afford Sinner and one other premium player, I would not advise that it would be Zverev as your pick. I would advise you on someone else because of this draw. But it's not terrible. If you own him, you might as well hold him through for this. And confidence is going to be sky high anyway because he's won Roland Garros and he did make semi-finals in Halle with some good results on the way. So I'm not massively concerned, but it could have been better. And then finally, Flavio Cobolli rounds out this list. Did make the quarterfinals last year at Wimbledon. He's only played one match on grass in singles this season, which he lost to TFO. No disgrace in that, of course. It was a tough first round match in Halle, but little tennis under his belt since the run to the Roland Garros final, and the draw looks pretty nasty from the third round onwards. Hatchov and Dimonor and Shelton and Zverev all the way through. I think it might be too soon again to go for him on grass. I think you might want to wait till the hard court swing for him. So looking at positions 9 through 16 on the most popular players, you'll see here that I've got Fritz in yellow, Lehecka and Medvedev in yellow as well. That means that I would keep them if you own them, but I wouldn't necessarily bring them in. I think that Bublik and Menchik and Dadari are all avoids, especially Dadari. I mean, I like TFO and I like Shelton, but TFO being in that fourth court does make things difficult. So let's look at their routes to the semis in more detail. Starting with Taylor Fritz, Jack Draper in round 1. It's definitely the most exciting first round matchup. Honourable mention for Wawrinka against Berrettini as well, but this is the one. Head to head, 3-2 in Jack Draper's favour, and Jack beat him on grass as well. But Jack's just come back from injury. Fritz is off the back of 2 finals on grass this season. I think he will come through. I think he'll lose a set. It'll be close, but I think he'll come through, and then that will give him the confidence to kick on from there. Having Echeverry as your third round opponent as a seed, if he even makes it, is nice. Bublik in the fourth round has beaten twice on grass, so that's obviously a bonus. Winning record against Zverev as well on the grass. There's a lot to like here. And then if it is Shelton in the semis, they had such a close match in that quarterfinal. It could have gone either way. Obviously, Fritz saved a match point, and obviously Fritz lost to Shelton the previous week in Stuttgart in the final. So if he's making it that far at 19 credits, you're absolutely delighted anyway. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I think if you own him, I think he is a keeper, and I think you start him. With Bublik, it doesn't look so great. Only one, he had a few good results in Stuttgart, but then lost first round of his title defence in Halle to Bellucci. Has not played since, pulled out of Mallorca for an unknown reason. It's potentially TFO in the third round, which is the one that obviously massively concerns me here. They've met twice on grass, and it's one each. You can flip a coin on that one. It's what kind of puts me off both of them, because one of them is going to go out then. Then it's Fritz, who you'll probably already own then in the fourth round. So I feel like if you're owning Fritz, you probably have to let go of Bublik and TFO is the reality. Lehecka, I think, is too much of a risk. We don't know enough about his grass court ability. He only played that one match to Manarino at Queen's, and it could be Feast and then Shelton in the fourth round. You're probably going to own Shelton, so again, it goes against the optimum player having both of those. And then Lehecka, I think, definitely keep him if you own him, because he's got quite a nice draw, and that's a fourth round match. It could go in his favour. So I think he's one of those. Especially if you don't own Zverev, then I think you do keep Lehecka. Obviously, if you already own Fritz and Zverev, then you probably wouldn't go there, or you would get rid of him. But I think he's a fine hold for Wimbledon, especially with the aces potential as well. And then closing out the popular picks routes to the semis, we've got Medvedev here at the top of this page. Really good record against Cilic, actually. I was very surprised. Obviously, 2-0 head-to-head on grass as well. He just beat him in Togensbosch as well in the match that went over 2 days a few weeks ago. Nakashima is a very difficult third-round match. Obviously, he's reached semi-finals at Queen's, but he's got a good head-to-head record there. Probably wouldn't even face Ruud in the fourth round. Has beaten Sinner on grass. I think, again, if you own him, there's no reason to get rid of him, given the section of the draw that he's in, despite it being in Sinner's quarter, that is. But given that he is in Sinner's quarter, there's no way you would look to bring him in if you don't own him already. Dali just an avoid. He played a couple of matches in Mallorca that were his first matches on grass. He won one of them, but then didn't look particularly inspiring. I think at 9 credits is way better value elsewhere. TFO, as we've mentioned, the Bublik third round, the Fritz fourth round. If you own Fritz or Bublik, it's just looking like unfortunately, it's going to probably be a no as well. And then Shelton, I think, definitely look to bring him in, because he is in that nice third quarter of the draw. Humbert's a very difficult potential third round opponent. He is obviously in the Eastbourne final, but you fancy a best of 5 that he would come through that. I don't think he'll even face Magic in the fourth round, but again on grass it feels very, very winnable. This is a guy who has just won a title in Stuttgart and then narrowly lost in the quarter to Fritz, having had a match point. There would be a Cobolli quarterfinal potentially, who's got a winning record there, and then a chance to take on Zverev in the semis potentially, or Fritz in a rematch. A lot to like there for Shelton. I think I'll be bringing him in this week. So I'm going to go through now and go through some potential dark horses in each of the quarters. If you want to take a punt, you don't want to go for the most popular players or the highest seeds. So in quarter one, Tommy Paul, run up at Queen's this season from a winner at Queen's as well. Good chance in his section of the quarter one to reach the fourth round at least. Then could take on Medvedev. Could win that, then it's Sinner in the quarters. At 7 credits, quarterfinal run would be excellent. Or if you want to go super budget, then you go for Hubert Hurkacz. Former semi-finalist here, ace machine, and actually quite a nice matchup against Ruud in round 1. I think that's a great chance to get the upset bonus points. So if he does that and then goes on to reach the third round to play Tommy Paul, pretty good campaign at 2 credits. In the second quarter, we've got Leonard Tien and Cam Norrie here. So Leonard Tien's in the favourable section of the draw, and he was only 2 points away from beating Felix Auger-Aliassime in that Halle second round match. He led that tiebreak 5-3, lost it 7-5. Could face him again in round 4. And if he gets that far 8 credits and gets that win, it would be amazing. And then Cam Norrie, former semi-finalist, quarter-finalist last year. In Auger-Aliassime's section would be a third-round match against him. It's a tough match against Zheng in the first round, who I think he's just come through qualifying and just cracked the top 100. So that's not easy, and he has had a rib injury. But there is obviously high upside there with him, and I fancy he could beat Felix in that third round. In the third quarter, we'll start with Majak, who won the title on grass this season a couple of weeks ago in Sertogenbosch. He beat de Minaur in the final, and he could face him again in the third round. And he also has got a chance to get immediate upset bonus points because he's got 30FC Tabilo in round 1, who isn't that convincing on grass. So I think at 4 credits, there's a lot to like there, especially with that potential chance to beat de Minaur again in the third round. And then Berrettini, I had to include him here. Wawrinka in the first round is a popcorn match. Former runner-up, quarterfinals at Roland Garros. I know he hasn't played since he had to pull out for injury, but he confirmed weeks ago that he was going to be fit for Wimbledon. He's raring to go. And he's got upset bonus point potentials against Fils and Menchik in the second and third round. So lots and lots of points on offer for him at 3 credits. I think he's well worth having a fun punt on if you're looking to go for someone a bit more outside the box. And then finally, in the fourth quarter, I put Jack Draper in here at 1 credit because he did have a good run at Eastbourne, go through to semis there, back from injury, and he has got that winning record against Fritz. With regards to getting a win against him on grass, leading the head-to-head 3-2. I think it's too soon to come through that match. Personally, I wouldn't take the risk, but if you own Draper and you don't own Fritz, then maybe you go for it. And I also thought, this quarter is so loaded that there isn't really any other standouts. I put in Altmaier because he did reach semis in Halle this season with wins over Medvedev and Lehecka on grass. So that's noteworthy. But given how we've seen how loaded this whole section is, I don't really think any surprise packages are going to come through. But if there was to be one, then it could be him. So in terms of my plans for Tournament Week 10, I am definitely bringing in Jannik Sinner and Ben Shelton, taking out Cerundolo and Fonseca because Fonseca is not a good pick this week, and Cerundolo's got the toughest draw in that fourth quarter. And if everything goes correctly with the price changes on Monday, then I should have the exact budget to bring in Djokovic because he'll drop from 21 to 15, and Shelton will move from 27 to 24, which will bring my budget back to 15 credits exactly, to then go and bring in Djokovic. So that is the plan. That'll leave me then with Sinner in quarter 1, Djokovic and Lerner TN in quarter 2, which is quite open, and they're on opposite sides of that section. And then I'll have Fritz and Zverev in the fourth quarter, and obviously Shelton in the third quarter. So great coverage across the board, and pretty solid alternates as well in the form of Mpeshi Perricard and Jack Draper. So that is the plan, all being well. I'm annoyed I've got to take a minus 50, especially considering how well it was set up beforehand, but given that 5 of my 8 players all end up in the same quarter of the draw, it is what it is. But I'll let you know on Monday that's all confirmed, but that is my plan. And before we round out this video, one more thing I wanted to mention is that I just noticed on the ATP Fantasy site that tournament weeks 11 and 12 are now confirmed in the game, and they are actually happening before the North American hardcourt swing. I didn't think we were doing any more tournament weeks in fantasy until we got to Washington, but that is not the case. They quietly announced this here. You can see that Altmaier, for example, is set to play in Bastad and Kitzbühel. So straight after Wimbledon, it means we're going to have events in Bastad and Gstaad and in Umag. And then we're also going to have the following week events in Kitzbühel and Estoril before we get to Washington. So these won't count as part of a swing. They're going to exist in a bit of a vacuum. But it does mean that ATP Fantasy is not stopping straight after Wimbledon. We're going to be straight back into it. So I was not prepared for this, but that's absolutely fine. It means that I'll do a game plan for this during the second week of Wimbledon so we can start preparing for it. It's a bit interesting considering it's not a new swing. So I have no idea what's going to happen with regards to if we're going to get 8 free switches or not going into this. Or whether that won't be the case until we get to the North American hardcourt swing. It's come as a surprise. I have no idea how it's going to work yet, but I'll do my best to communicate this on my channel as soon as I know more. But just wanted to put it on your guys' radar that we are probably straight back into things after the grass swing. That is it for this video. Good luck for Wimbledon. Major points on offer, major rank swings to be had. Join the conversation as always on our subreddit, and you also obviously on the YouTube comments as well, and our socials. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video if you haven't done so already. Enjoy it, good luck, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Thanks for watching as always. Bye for now.